So good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, depending on where you are. And looking forward to running through this introductory webinar for you today on our digital strategies for business session. Now, can I just check before we go any further that you can see and hear me clearly? So please, can I ask you to go into the chat and give us a thumbs up or a yes if you can hear me clearly. So I see we've got some answers coming in. See and hear. Thanks, Daniel, for that. Mike, Jorge, yes, you can hear us clearly. Fantastic. While we were just waiting for any others to join us, can I just ask you to tell me where in the world you are dialing in from today, just so your city and your country. That will be great. And then we'll, while you're doing this, we'll see a few more people arriving, I'm sure. So we've got Anne-Marie from Geneva, Protik from Singapore, Daniel from Mexico City, Joseph from Florida, Mary late in the day, I think in Melbourne, Australia. We've got Poland, we've got Mike in New York City, we've got Faisal in Dubai, Kat in London, Simon in Oxford, just around the corner from where I am here in Windsor in the UK, New Jersey for Dino, and Manoj in the UK. So good to have you all with us. Good you can hear nice and clearly. Let's get started then. So in this session, before we get going, a few comments quickly about the setup of our platform. I'm sure you're familiar with Zoom. Just to be clear, we're looking for you to keep yourselves on mute if you're not talking, but we'd love to get some Q&A a bit later on. So please raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute you and then talk to you later. Please feel free to use the chat if you've got any questions you want to share with us, and make sure that you're putting panelists and attendees. If you wish to use the Q&A, we'll be looking at both of those later on as we go through this session to get some feedback from you. Let's make this as interactive as possible. We want to answer your questions, and we want to give you a little bit of a flavor of the programs that we deliver, which are very interactive by their nature. So what are we doing today? Well, there are 4 areas that we'll be focusing on in this agenda. First of all, an introduction to the faculty. We'll be then looking at Emeritus and giving you a bit of background on the business and what we do, and hopefully why you'll be wanting to spend some time with us at the end of this session. We'll be giving you an overview, importantly, of the program itself, what it covers, and how we run this online learning experience for you. And then we'll be having a Q&A at the end. So this whole program will last no more than 60 minutes. So let's get started then. First of all, about the faculty. Doubtless you've already done your research and you've come across David Rogers. So David is a very articulate, a very engaging, and a very authoritative expert in the area of digital transformation and digital strategy. So David, a recognized leader. He has written 2 best-selling guides. One, The Network is Your Customer, and the second, The Digital Transformation Playbook, both of which are key resources that underpin the frameworks and the narrative that runs through this program. He's faculty of exec ed at Columbia Business School, a recognized leader on digital strategy, and this finds its way through various aspects of David's working life. He's a keynote speaker in transformation. I've had the great pleasure to stand alongside David delivering workshops for clients, and he has an impressive client list, as you can see here: Toyota, Pernod Ricard, Lilly, SAP. So the list goes on. So you can see a good mix here of clients from multiple sectors. Of course, this is very valuable hands-on experience, which assists to deliver the richness and the contextual relevance of the program that David is leading for us here. He's also no stranger to those researching this subject, looking for thought leadership, whether it be his presence on CNN, ABC News, CNBC, also the Financial Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal. So he's well published and highly articulate, both in the written and the spoken word. For my part, I'm a course leader with Emeritus. I've been very proud to be working with Emeritus now for 4 years. I do 3 things for a living. First up, I'm a digital consultant. I run a business called Burn the Sky, and we assist businesses with their digital transformation challenges. So this involves consultancy work that we do. We also are heavily involved in executive education, and I work with Emeritus across a number of their programs. This one, digital marketing strategy, digital disruption, in leading the programs, being involved in the assignment grading, and indeed involved in the office hour sessions, which sit alongside the face-to-face programs. I do a lot of work also with Google on their executive education, on their connected consumer, data-driven marketing and brand activation programs, both face-to-face and of course these days online. And a lot of my time is spent working with clients in time zones all over the world. So Europe is the smallest part of our business. We spend a lot of time working with clients in the GCC states, so Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, and further afield in Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and a lot of work also in India, Pakistan, so South Asia. So that's where most of our work is taking place. And you can see from the graphic here, financial services, American Express, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Etisalat, and a number of Vodafone, a number of the telcos, but also retailers, auto, and packaged goods businesses. I've also written 3 books on digital. My deep expertise is mobile, so mobile strategy, mobile CRM, and mobile commerce are the areas where I've researched and written books. All of this, I hope, is valuable in the role I play for Emeritus as a course leader. So, talking of books, here are the 2 that David has written. I'm sure you'll be becoming very familiar with these, very easy to follow, very clearly written and structured, and provide an excellent backbone to the program that we're going to be talking about today. So, digital strategies for business. Well, here's why you may not need to do this course. You may feel that your business is immune from digital disruption. You know, we've got a special business, we've already done a little bit of digital, it doesn't really affect us. Well, you'd be alone in this view. The vast majority of companies believe that digital disruption is a competitive opportunity. There's so much written now, whether it's Capgemini, Harvard Business Review, Forrester, there are so many thought leadership pieces indicating that digital really is the battleground now for businesses as they emerge from the COVID disruption and are now providing a much more efficient and customer-centric approach to building their reputation and building their revenues, both today and in the future. You may feel that this digital transformation thing is a fad. It's not here to last. Like so many things, it'll come and go. Again, you would be in the minority and you'd be missing out potentially on a vast amount of revenue that derives from digital. And this research here from Zion Market Research indicates that over $400 billion worth of revenue is at stake here by the end of next year, connected directly with digital. Digital as a way of increasing the revenue you're getting from existing customers, but potentially also developing whole new revenue streams which allow you to pivot away from your traditional business model. We've already cracked it. I doubt that's the case. Only 5% of businesses feel, according to this Forrester research, that they have mastered digital to a point of differentiation. More so, there's huge opportunity to focus on the digital experience you're providing in order to derive a clear and marked point of differentiation from your competitors. You may have no interest in advancing your career. Well, it would take someone either inordinately wealthy or very confident in their ability to fend off the competition as it comes. It's clear that digital knowledge is a key part to any individual's career progression. 66% of chief execs, according to this research, have digital transformation at the very heart of their corporate strategy, and behind that, their own fortunes. And finally, I've got another 4 series of Game of Thrones to watch, so I don't really have time for this studying business. Well, I can say that as I know Professor David Rogers rather well, he maybe no Lannister, but he's very compelling to watch and to learn from, and we don't feel that you'll have a dull moment in his company. So the 5 key domains of digital strategy are what we want to share with you right now. These are in order: customer. Everything we do in business should be geared around the customer. Understanding the customer, understanding their needs and providing those needs, providing services and products for those needs in an effective, easy, and intuitive manner. This means there's a huge opportunity for personalization. It's not one size fits all anymore. It's providing much more a one-to-one personalized experience, whether you're in B2B or B2C. Competition, understanding what the competition looks like and realizing that today's competitor may not really look like a competitor at all. Let's face it, when Nokia went seriously wrong, it was clearly a focus on their traditional competitors. Nokia was looking at Ericsson and Motorola. Nokia hadn't realized that the real competition was a little MP3 player on the west coast of the USA. Apple, of course, completely disrupted the mobile industry, and Nokia is a thing of the past. So we need to understand that the competitors as we know them may not be the really important people that you need to be worrying about and the people you need to be focusing on. It's clear, and there's so much written about this now, that data is the most powerful resource at your disposal. It's often said that data is the new oil. Now, in its purest form, that analogy works. Data taken from source is quite hard to work with. It requires processing and refinement. But once you have properly captured, consolidated, and analyzed that data, therein lies the real value of the data. Being able to use that data to develop some rules, some business intelligence, which helps you to drive your business strategy, whether it's around developing new products, providing better experiences, or identifying the most efficient pricing models, or so many other things around the business. Data and data-driven decision-making is fundamental. The next one is innovation. Of course, no business can afford to sit on its laurels and do what it has done the same forevermore. We need to develop an innovation culture. We need to encourage our customers and our employees to be part of our innovation vision and innovation journey, to develop at pace minimum viable products, which allow us to test and learn our hypothesis. And when we get positive feedback, then to press the button and invest heavily on scaling these innovation prototypes. And finally, value. We need to understand that our current value proposition may be limited, and that to extract the real value of our business based on serving our customers effectively, working in a way that's highly competitive, and collaborating with potential competitors to build a hybrid solution, being very smart at using the data, being very innovative and developing great products, in a combined way, allow us to challenge our value proposition as it's understood and build a future business which is far more robust and resilient in the uncertain times in which we live today. At the heart of this lies the leader and the requirement for today's digital leader to embrace each and every one of these 5 domains and bring it into an effective leadership approach which empowers people in the business, gives them confidence to feel innovative and to contribute to the overall vision. And at the same time, and in a difficult way for many organizations, to break down the silos and the BAU, business as usual approach, which stifles progress and hinders digital transformation. So this is the real agenda. This is what we're really looking to develop here. We'll go on to the course in a bit more detail in a moment, but before we do that, just a little bit of background on Emeritus. For those of you who are new to this business, I have to say I am so proud to be working with them. The business was set up by 2 very smart grads, one having just left Harvard and one having just left INSEAD, who realized there was a big opportunity to extend these face-to-face programs to learners around the world. Their model was to build an extension program which took the quality learning that's provided face-to-face on those and the campuses of other leading business schools around the world and provide it over the internet to the growing numbers, millions of people who were wanting to get that level of skill and intelligence to apply to their business, but for various reasons were unable to travel to those countries. And guess what? This is a golden age for Emeritus. COVID, disruptive as it is, has provided a fantastic opportunity for Emeritus to put to good use the vast amounts of investment that have gone into building our platform and our programs to benefit the many people who are simply unable to travel due to the pandemic at the moment. The result is a large number of world-class business schools in our group here. So we talk about Columbia, this program. We also work with MIT. I mentioned INSEAD. We work with Berkeley. We work with Cambridge Judge in the university in the UK. We work with London Business School in this part of the world. We're working with IIMK and a number of business schools in India and others worldwide. This is a fast-growing network of business schools we work with and a very significant number of learners all around the world engaging in our programs. And you can see some of the split of learners on that chart there. So truly international in their complexion. Our formula for success is based on a number of key ingredients. We combine live interactions, webinars, graded assignments, and simulations. We follow up to make sure that you really are understanding, and we assess the understanding of what we teach, and we give the qualifications based on evidence that you have indeed done the work and learnt from the materials that we're presenting. And our result is a very healthy and a very unusually high 85% completion rate in our courses. So how do we do it? Well, we take the content from the leading academic institutions. In its raw form, this is gold dust, but we won't allow people to prosper and to get to grips with this stuff by simply putting it on a website or sticking it on videos. So we create a blended learning experience combining guest lectures. So we have faculty speaking. We're going to see a bit of David Rogers in the program, but we also bring in guest lecturers alongside David. We break this down into bite-sized learning chunks. We realize a lot of you will be doing busy jobs, and we want this learning to sit alongside what you're doing in your day-to-day. We have peer-to-peer learning. So much of adult learning is about what you are picking up from the learning, but also what others are picking up from the learning. And so a lot of our activities here are based on peer learning and group activities where you'll be developing your solutions alongside other learners. whether they're in your industry sector or not, whether they're in your country and geographic zone or not. If you're working for a global business, this is a fantastic simulation for working in a global business because you will be learning alongside other people from other parts of the world. We bring in simulations. I've been involved in pioneering a simulation project for one of our Emeritus clients recently. We're always looking to improve the quality of the simulations to give you a real world experience, which is easy to apply to your job and to the real world applications. We apply this learning in multiple formats. A lot of this should be purposed and is purposed to work on a mobile phone, where a lot of our customers are spending their time. And of course, you don't get a qualification if you don't deserve it. And so we'll be grading and evaluating your work through the program very carefully. At the end of it, you'll be joining 30,000 others who are already graduates of the Emeritus program and in our network. So the opportunities here are quite wide. It's not just a case of getting a certificate. We provide assistance with your tuition as you go through the program. You can be working with other Emeritus grads in order to get access to information about events. These, of course, are digital at the moment, but they will revert to being face-to-face in due course. A startup corner. So many people coming on our programs are entrepreneurs wanting to get going and wanting to meet with other like-minded thinkers. And so there is a startup part of our community, extended program access, and finally, access to Emeritus groups that we run on LinkedIn and on other social channels. So I'd now like to turn our attention to the course itself. What we're going to do here is give you an overview of the objectives, of the agenda, and some examples of the actual learning that we're going to be going through, and then a bit around the grading and the qualification. And when we get to the end of that section, we're then going to open it up for some questions. But please feel free, if we go through this section, and you have some questions, please drop them in the chat or in the Q&A, and I will circle back and have a look at those questions and answer them when we finish this section. So, what are we trying to do? Well, we're looking at a number of objectives here. First of all, to guide your thinking around developing new products and new services and business models which engage today's always-on customer. Of course, our customers, whether B2B or B2C, are extremely demanding, and they've seen the art of the possible by working with some extremely sophisticated tech and data-driven businesses that really do push the envelope on all forms of digital. The likes of Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, these businesses, and Salesforce would be a good example of a B2B organization that prove what can be done. They have high expectations, and we need to make sure our products and services are meeting the same exacting delivery standards as the digital native businesses there. We need to make sure that your customers are really the heart of what you are doing. You should be customer-led. You should be developing products and services that meet your customers' needs, not finding customers to buy the products that you've already built. So customer centricity is a big part of this, and we will be looking at that in the program. We'll be looking at platform strategies. A platform fundamentally provides a whole different financial model and business dynamic by providing a scalable asset, a scalable resource, where you can be bringing in more partners to the platform, and the platform itself can then amplify in its value. I think we're all familiar with the Amazon platform, which allows multiple players to come together on the platform and make money. And whether it's Amazon or it's GoCheck in Indonesia or Grab in Malaysia, or so many other platforms built. And you can think of Spotify as another example. There are so many of them where the platform itself, the technology, is easily scalable and can serve multiple audience groups. And each can have a very clearly defined benefit and remuneration model. Innovation and how we can use data in order to create products that people really want, rather than looking in the rearview mirror and assessing what we've done in the past. So the data should be the headlights, and the headlights, not just in terms of providing great user experiences, but also innovative products that we should be defining based on hard data, not on instinct. We'll be looking also at what we can learn from the startups. I was doing a program recently and talking to someone in the oil and gas business who was saying for him, the really important thing was to be seen as a beginner and to bring a beginner mindset into the business. Now, a beginner doesn't mean someone straight out of school. It means someone who has a new way of thinking about things, not tarnished by the old ways and means of working in an industry. We can learn a lot from the beginner, from the startup, and apply those startup processes and models into our business. It's something Jeff Bezos talks about extensively, bringing this day one mentality into the business, however old the business is. So we're constantly looking to be experimental and to try new things out. The value proposition, challenging the value proposition to stay ahead of the disruptive trends and to think and act like a disruptor, not like an incumbent. So we break this down into 13 modules. We have the first module looks at these 5 domains we've covered already. We look at the customer network and new paths to purchase and the viral effect that we can be developing as an organization using the customer network and the customer as the advocate, who him or herself can become a very valuable influencer for others in their networks. We then look at different digital behaviors. What is it that customers are doing? How do we use the digital journey to develop relevant touch points and then communicate with the customer with the right message, using the right language at the right time to affect the right outcome, which is usually a progression through the customer journey, building awareness into conversion and then into long-term loyalty and advocacy. In module 5, we look at co-opetition, not competition, co-opetition. This term, which David Rogers has coined, explains how organizations that may not look like competitors or collaborators could actually serve as both. So we need to be looking at how we can build partnerships where the sum of the parts is greater than the individual components. We then look at data and how data is a strategic asset. We've covered that already. And then data at work, module 7. So we look at big data, tools for using data, automation, machine learning, AI, ways of developing real value from that data and making decisions based on that and linking those back to value templates. And then in the back half of the program, we look at the mindset shift. So there's some of the more soft skills come in here around experimentation, how we need to build an A/B test mindset, test and learn. And it's not a case of failing, it's a case of learning fast from A/B tests and multivariate minimum viable products or minimum lovable products, as they're sometimes known. We look at the startup, the lean startup, Eric Rice and his concept of developing a startup mentality and where we should focus our efforts there and bringing that mentality to scale large businesses. We then look at the value proposition, move on to disruptive business models, and we'll be looking at a number of practical examples of businesses that have disrupted traditional industries, Airbnb, Uber, these are the ones we know, but we're looking at many other examples too. And then surviving disruption. If you're one of the IBMs, if you're an incumbent, how can you be tackling your market and handling the disruption that a startup is presenting for you? Some are good at responding to disruption, some are hopeless. So we look at some of the trends involved in that. And then finally, the leadership, and what are the leadership skills and the commercial imperative you need to put in place in order to devolve responsibility and lead your teams, but not so much in a sort of dictatorial way at all, but more in terms of guiding them from behind, empowering and supporting them, and encouraging them to learn from mistakes and not just follow a rigid blueprint, which is unadaptable. So that's the model we're going to be following. So I'm just going to stop here and pick up Mary's question. Is it suitable for a senior exec between jobs to update their skills, or is it better for people already in roles so they can apply the learning to current situations? Is it relevant in the non-profit sector? So Mary, in turn, I would answer your questions as follows. It is entirely a suitable program for those between jobs, for those looking to challenge their existing mindset and way of thinking, and for those looking for some really valuable perspectives to take into interview when they are applying for their new job, indeed for those selecting the right kind of job, not just for those already in role. So I see often on this course, we have a good mix of those in role and those between roles. The other point, non-profit sector, yes, I mean, these principles can be applied regardless of sector, although clearly the reality of working in a non-profit organization and a commercial one mean that your value proposition will vary, although I think the principles, certainly around data, around customer centricity and platform, are all equally relevant in non-profit and for profit sector. So next question, we've just had in, how much time allocated for each module? Well, we need to work through the program and the number of days and weeks in this program. Each module, as a rule of thumb, is 1 week of time. So that's how I would look at this. Although when we look into the program itself and the timing of the program, we can give you a more granular answer to that, Konstantinos. So how might we apply this to your industry? This somewhat comes back to Mary's question just now about, is this a program that's going to work for me if I am in non-profit or in another sector? And so the way we would answer that question is to put ourselves into the minds of your different customers, whether they are B2C or B2B. And the first sort of rhetorical question here is, are poor customer experiences the only important ones? Well, we know from social media that customers do tend to jump on social media where something isn't working. I do a lot of work in the banking sector, in the telco sector, and we see that the social media handles are kind of the go-to place for dissatisfied customers. But we also see, with a huge impact of ratings and reviews, that having a good customer experience is something that we need to be nurturing and sharing, because this itself we can use in many ways in our social media campaigns, in our content strategy, indeed on our advertising. A happy customer is a very important person, and one whose voice is very valuable. Of course, it's so authentic and it has real value. What about the competition? So again, it depends on your sector, but I would go back to my example with Nokia. We need to think outside the box to identify who the competitor really is. And it's not necessarily the case that the competitor is in your sector today. Who would have thought, for example, that back to the distribution business, distribution for food, which is such an important thing in the COVID times in which we live now, that it's actually the likes of the courier companies, the food delivery workhorses, if you like, are the existing networks of cars, motorbikes and bicycles that can be providing a food service in addition to their traditional passenger or non-perishable products. So my point, to be clear about this, is if we have a business that comprises a network of vehicles or bikes or whatever else it is, given that that network already exists, we can then leverage that network by providing additional services, and the competition may well be the courier company, even though before the COVID period, you may not have thought that that was of any value to a food organization. The next example, data. How do you collect and analyze data? I'm right in the middle of now developing a data program. And the real issue here, it's not just the collection of data, it's what you do with it. Often data sits on someone's hard drive, data reports are shared around the business. But because there's so much data out there, often organizations fail to do anything with it. 95% of businesses, our research shows, sitting on data, valuable data, but they're not harnessing the value of that data. So we need to know what we're looking for, identify the big shifts, the big spikes in our data that we're tracking, and then identify what this represents, tell stories through the data we're seeing, and take action to explain to others in the business what this means, and then drive that into our product roadmap and our service delivery capabilities. Next, innovation. So are you an innovative business? Are you thinking creatively? Are you experimental? You know, the real issue is that if businesses don't see a constant need to challenge themselves, to disrupt themselves, to find new ways of doing things, this can be client facing, it could be partner facing, it could be employee facing. If we're not constantly looking to disrupt and find new ways of doing things, we will be left behind. I do a lot of work with Google, and I've got to tell you, the way that Google challenges itself to find better ways of doing things, bureaucracy busting innovations, ways to streamline processes, ways to make decision-making simpler and quicker, with everything from people's pay scales to finding quicker ways of getting meeting rooms booked. All of these things are designed to improve efficiency. And there's no end here. We should constantly be looking to push the envelope, build a hypothesis, substantiate it with an experiment, and either validate or falsify, and then bring that experiment into the business if it's successful, or kill it if it's not successful. This is the way we should be thinking as digital innovators. And then finally, value. How do we create more value for our customers? Are we looking at average order value? Are we looking at frequency? Are we looking at lifetime value? We've got to be looking at each and every aspect here in order to understand what are the opportunities for us to deepen our relationship with our customer and develop a value proposition which best serves their needs today and anticipates their needs tomorrow. So this is all part of our approach. So what we want you to be thinking about on this course is different ways of thinking about your customer, about your competitor, being very inquisitive, almost obsessed in the way that Google is about your customer. What is it that turns them on? What is it that they really need? Not what you think they need. What do they really need? And that's evidenced by their behavior. What are they clicking on? What are they putting in the basket? What are they abandoning? What are they saying on social media? What are they saying to their colleagues? All of this data is really important, and we need to use that to extract a real-time picture on what they're really wanting and needing. We need to be very good at understanding data, as I said earlier, reading stories from the data in order to derive some really valuable insights. We need to be looking at new ways of managing and leading innovation. And I'm just going to pick up on Willem's point here. Willem's question here is, how is this different from the book? Well, it's a great question. And I'm going to give you an answer, which is it's entirely different, and it's not different at all at the same time. It's not different at all because the principles we do cover in the book, but it's entirely different and far more valuable because this course is three-dimensional. The books you're going to read on a page, on a screen, this is how the ideas in the book impact other people in other businesses. The real value of this program, Willem, is the reflection that different people in this learning cohort develop together, the discussions they have together, the ideas that they postulate in their responses on our learning management system, the feedback from one another, and also the feedback from the faculty. So it's the same principles, but the learning experience is entirely different. And so that is the difference that we would present to you. New ways of defining and understanding our value to the marketplace. And your value is obviously going to change according to what you're learning from this program and how you can be stimulated to consider, to question the learnings as you go through. And I have to say, I've got this as a post-it on my wall in my office upstairs. Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. We want to challenge you. We want to challenge the way you think, what your beliefs are about your organization and your customers and your data and all the things on this slide. And if you believe that you know it all and you're not getting any feedback from any other person on this program, whether it's the faculty, the course leaders, or the other learners, well, I will be simply amazed, and you'll be the first person ever to go through this program not to have been challenged in their thinking. The real value is what this stimulates you and provokes you to think, how you're thinking differently, and the value you can then bring back to your organization. So just before, I'll come back to the rest of the questions in a moment, if I may. Let me just go through the logistics. So as I said earlier, we run this program across a series of weeks. And then for each week, typically we're looking at one module. In some cases, we do double up as we've got a 10-week program and 13 modules here. So we do bring in guest speakers. The hugely charismatic and very, very provocative Chris Perks, a good friend of mine, who will be delivering week 2 and week 10. We bring in Richard for weeks 4 and 6 around demystifying the digital transformation, around mobilization. I need to reminder to catch up with Richard about the mobilization piece there, as I said I would do last week. And then also Demetrius, who's going to be talking about operational aspects. And you have a live Q&A with David Rogers, which will be slotted in at the time that the program support team agreed to do. We also, just for your info, aim to keep the live webinars at 1 o'clock UTC. Now the time is going to shift. We have a daylight saving time shift on the 25th of October, later this month. So for consistency and clarity, all of our sessions will be at 1 o'clock UTC, which is the same as 1 o'clock GMT in old money. So that means, and just Google it if you want to know what UTC is, and make sure that you've got the dates in your calendar which are UTC aligned to save any confusion with summertime or winter time. The assessment, so the way this works is we are wanting you to demonstrate that you've understood the principles and that you are applying those in the assignment responses that you post up on the Canvas learning management system. And we will be grading those assignments and ensuring that for those who pass 50%, get a pass mark of 50%, then they will get the qualification. There are a total number of points up for grabs, 1,500 points. So if you get 750 points, you'll be deemed to have done enough to pass, although we expect you to get considerably more than that in the program. We've got some smart people joining us, some expert facilitation and faculty, and we expect you to get more than just the 50%. You will be, by the way, be getting your assignments graded within 2 weeks of submission for each and every week. So, learning management system, this is Canvas. I've mentioned it a couple of times. This is available as a web-based tool. I've been using this for 4 years. I have to say, having worked with various tools in the past few years, this is solid, it's robust, it's easy to use, it's pretty intuitive. And we also have this available as a downloadable app, both on iOS and Android there. And that's a screen grab, which gives you an introductory video. There's David Rogers explaining the setup. And then you can see on the left-hand side here, we've got the modules, the people you'll be studying alongside, your grades, which are available to you, various discussions, quizzes, syllabuses, and various other interactive learning components. Each of you will have your own dashboard. You will have your own calendar, your own inbox, and all of this interaction is provided in a very easy one-click access tool. I have a bookmark for my Canvas, and I can jump in there once the password is set up, straight in there and pick up on the various aspects. And I've got a reminder, a to-do list on the right-hand side here with a next up activity plan tailored for my needs on the right-hand side there. The last piece before we jump into the questions, the financial terms. So it's a $1,500 fee for this program, which can be paid in full or can be paid in 2 installments, and you can see the dates there. You also have the option to pay in 3 installments if you wish to, and you can see the dates and the figures there on the slide. So the course itself starts on the 15th of October, so you've got another 9 days, and we take applications right up until the day before, on the 14th of October. At the end of it, this is what you'll get. You'll have a physical version of this certificate. You can see an Emeritus and Columbia Business School there. And you'll also have an online version. I have to see, I seem to spend my whole time on LinkedIn seeing happy students having just acknowledged that they've got their certificate for the program, whichever one it is. This, of course, becomes something of a badge of honor. It's certainly helpful for those looking for new roles. And it's clearly something that allows you to show a very tangible form of recognition for your hard work that goes into the course, which itself gives you internal credibility in your organization, but also it's a valuable passport to being found more easily if you're considering moving roles. So the deadlines then. The course starts, as I just said, on the 15th, and we'll be taking applications up until the 14th. And we're happy to take any questions you may have now. And then if there's anything I'm unable to answer because it's of a more administrative area, I would point you to the program support team and ask you to point your question in that direction. But we've got about 11 minutes left now. And so I'd like to, at this point, jump into the questions and then pick these up one by one. I'm going to start by looking in the Q&A box, and see what questions we've got in the Q&A. And then I'm going to come back and look at the other questions here in the chat. So let's just have a quick look then. What I'm seeing is, I'm not seeing the Q&A questions there. Let's just jump in. Let's jump in over here. So we've got a question here from Mary, or actually program support. If you haven't read it, a response to Mary. This course does not have a prerequisite as such, and we do receive participants from different LOBs of the industry as well. As stated, digital transformation is relevant to all sectors. On average, time allocated to a module can be for a week or two. Yes, it depends on how much detail. So it's a 10-week program, 13 modules. So we have some overlap there. Timeline extensions, if required due to work constraints, are provided by the support team. For one of my other programs, I had an email just a few minutes ago saying, I think I've just contracted COVID. I need to have a little bit of extra time. That is a perfectly reasonable request, and the program support team would consider that and typically give an extension until you're back on your feet. And you know, it may be the case that if you would need to defer because you've got COVID, again, that's a possibility that the program support team would need to make. Willem, another question from you. How is this different from other digital transformation strategy courses from other universities that is also offered by Emeritus? So I think they are all different in their nature. I mean, I'll give you a reference point to the other one I'm involved in facilitating, a digital disruption course. In that case, we focus much more on the principles of disruption and how organizations, and look in some detail at the disruptive threats, ways that organizations can tackle disruption. Now that's a part of this course, but there's so much more in this course. If you go back to the 5 pillars, a real focus on the customer, on the competitor, on the data, on the value proposition, in addition to competition. This is a broader program. We cover more ground on this one, but the principles are the same in providing the learning as a keynote presentation or video presented by faculty, an assignment which challenges you to think about how to apply the learnings of the videos, of the reading that we share, and an assignment which also allows us to assess how well you've really understood this stuff and give you a grade on the back of that. And the grading you get on this one is more rigorous than the grading on one of the other ones, which is simply a pass-fail for each week. The other course, by the way, is also quite a lot shorter, and there's a lot more individual work where we have some more group-based activities in this one. So I would say this is a richer program in terms of the variety of topics and the way in which we test your learning of this one and the group dynamics. So Willem, I hope that helps to answer your question on this one. Maciek, I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly there. What about new organization of work, project-based, ad hoc created? So in terms of innovation and developing MVPs, we will touch on, in this course, on ways that we can be challenging traditional waterfall ways of working, looking at agile squads and tribes and ways of bringing together cross-functional members of teams to work on discrete projects rather than having people working in their individual areas of the business. And that's an essential part of disruption, and digitization is bringing different people from different skill sets together. So that is something we will cover in, I think it was module number 7 there. So I hope that is helpful for you. Let's look over to Alvaro here. Does this course help startup founders to focus their products and evolve? Or is the course more focused on the mid and big companies that want to jump into digital strategies? I think it's both. I think if you're a startup, there'll be the first parts of this program, the first half, look at the core principles of digital around the customer, around competition, around data, which will be valuable. But for a bigger organization, if you've got your head around that already, the more valuable stuff for those organizations will be the latter half, where we look at disruption, we look at experimentation, we look at a mindset shift, which is often something that big organizations have not really tackled, even though they may be very good at some of the more technical aspects of disruption. Konstantinos, great question. Will sessions be recorded and available for view? Yes, is the answer. We do record each of the sessions, and the sessions will be available on the Canvas platform as a playback. So you can watch those after the course week has concluded. For various reasons, it may be that you've been unable to watch the video. It may be that your weekly office hours session happens at a time that you're unable to. You've got to pick the kids up from school. Maybe you've got a meeting. Maybe something else happens. So yes, it is recorded, which is valuable. Mary, 1 o'clock UTC is midnight in Australia. I'll miss learning opportunities if I have to watch recordings only. You can pick up a lot by watching the recordings. And I think back to the last question there, Mary, a recording is a really smart way to learn, because if you don't catch it first time, you can watch it again. You've also got the opportunity to be involved in a lot of the other activities, thinking about the office hours sessions. Those are at different times in the day, and you will, by engaging in those, hopefully be able to do so at a more sensible time. I do a lot of my office hours sessions for my other course at 8 in the morning UK time, which is a very sociable late afternoon in Australia at the moment. So there will be opportunities to engage face-to-face, even though the actual live webinars, remember there are only about 5 live webinars, they are recorded, but there are other learning components which you can do outside that live format. Dino, how does this class compare with the digital marketing class also offered? I have to say, Dino, that is a great program, and you will see the similarity being one of the frameworks that David Rogers delivers. Indeed, he's the godfather of both of these courses, but we talk much more in that one about the customer aspects. We look at the five strategies, digital marketing strategies there. We've got the access strategy, we've got the engage strategy, we've got the customized strategy, we've got the network strategy, and then we've got finally the collaborate strategy. So those 4-5 strategies, they work very well for that program, but that doesn't tie in with some of the broader topics that we cover on this program around data, around value, around innovation. Those aspects are not covered on the digital marketing program. Just for your information, we also offer a 9-month program, a digital diploma program, which combines this program, the marketing program, and the platform business program, but that's a different beast. That's 9 months. It takes clearly a lot longer, and it comprises the 3 separate ones. So there is not a lot of overlap. I think you may need to make a decision, Dino, whether your real focus is on marketing or on the business model and developing the business strategy. Peter, are there scholarships or discounts available? Great question. I don't have the answer. Oh, yes, hang on, we do. Answer here from program support. Program support are very good, aren't they? They jump in with the answers quickly. May I request you to share your email? We have a program advisor who can help with that. So there you go. Konstantinos, again, all live sessions conducted are recorded and shared links. So I've said that bit already. So I think that's it for the questions in the Q&A. Let me just check. Are there any other points? We've got another minute, maybe even 2 minutes if we need them. So are there any other issues, any other things you want to address? Now's a great time to do this. Of course, if you suddenly think of something after this session has closed, you can reach out to the program support team and ask them. And in the chat, I will just put the, hang on, where we got it. I think program support, if I can ask you, just to be sure I get this right, program support, could you please put your email address in the chat? And then if anyone needs to get hold of you, they can do so. I don't want to put the wrong address in. I think it's support@emeritus.org, but I might be wrong. So yes, if you can do that for us, please, program support, then we will have that for you. You can also see in the chat now a link, thank you program support, to apply for this program right now. There's a link to the sign up page right there. So click on the link and that will give you access to the registration form. And the email address, programs@emeritus.org, if you've got any additional questions there. So if we have no further questions, let me thank you for your time today. I hope you found this an informative session. I hope we'll be seeing you on the program. We have a vast number of people who I've had the great pleasure of meeting on this program, who I know have found this really valuable. I hope we can add your number to theirs. We wish you all the very best. Do keep safe in the next few days and weeks. I hope we'll see you on the program. And may I just wish you finally a happy learning journey. All the best of luck. And that's it for now. Thank you so much.